Welcome to episode 2 of Live Your Legacy podcast with Ben and Mike. Today our guest, Nina Parker, owner, operator of Keller Williams Legacy here in Apex. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. Thanks for coming and sitting down with us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. For just people who aren't familiar with you yet, what is your, kind of just your basic background, from beginning childhood to getting here and just kind of a basic who you are, a little bio.
Okay. I grew up in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
I came to Apex, North Carolina, of all places,
Mm-hmm.
in June of 1995. And I was an au pair for a family right here locally and took care of 2 little girls.
Okay.
During that process, I met my husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
I took care of his little sisters,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which is...
And him, I'm sure.
and him.
Yeah.
And we got married in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
When I lived in Sweden, I always had a job, right? I always had several jobs at the same time because I always loved being busy and doing things. So I was a twirling instructor and I competed in twirling. Most people, they don't know that about me. I worked at a gym. I ran an ice cream boat for many summers, and Swedish ice cream is amazing, by the way. So then my father actually purchased me a little food truck.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran that for a year. And then he purchased me a little convenience store. Because in Sweden it's kind of hard to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of being unemployed, my dad and I, we chose to buy little ventures. And then I got to run it and get experience,
Mm-hmm.
which was a lot of fun. So I did that for a couple of years and then moved over to be with Ben in 98. We got married and I went to Wake Tech for about a semester, and I don't like school.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And then I was a waitress at Macaroni Grill. Loved that.
Mm.
A lot of good leftover food. Ben loved that.
Oh
didn't you?
yeah, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was a great.
I missed
great
that
time.
restaurant.
Yeah.
And then I got the opportunity to be a front desk person at Manpower in Cary, and this was in 1999-ish,
Yeah.
right? I started as a front desk person at Manpower in Cary, worked my way up to recruiter and then senior recruiter. I absolutely loved it. I had about 70 people working for me, and I just loved helping people find their passion and what they like doing and plug them into the training that they needed to get where they wanted to go. And I grew my account quite a bit just walking around knocking doors on Western Parkway, getting new accounts to be able to recruit to. So I did that for a few years, and then I became a manager at Target out in Garner. Did that for a couple of years and had our daughter in 2004. And I had the privilege to be home for over a year with her as a stay-at-home mom. And then after that, I wanted to go back to work and make some money myself and help out with the household. So I went to the company that Ben worked at and did the books for a building company at the time. So I did that from 2005 and got my real estate license in 2007. Had a surprise baby, Max. He's 14 now.
Mm-hmm.
And after we had him, I decided to go into real estate to have more of a flexible job. And for the people that don't know, 2008 is when the big recession hit,
Right.
especially in North Carolina. So I activated my real estate license. I thought that was a great idea to do in the middle of recession. And I brought Max with me to almost every show that I had. So during that time, I did the books for the building company. I babysat a child after they got out of preschool. That was my daughter's friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in real estate, hauling my little son around, showing houses. So I think that's my background.
Wow. And now, doing that when you first start real estate, did you go independent right away? What was kind of your path when you got into real estate?
No, so interestingly enough, I entered with several real estate firms in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Several would not hire me because I could not dedicate full-time hours to the real estate,
Mm.
and they told me that it was going to be very hard to make it as a working mom. So I had two firms in the area that turned me down right away, and I found a small firm downtown Apex called Realty World, and Kimberly Sands, she was the broker in charge. And I remember this vividly because I was sitting at home and we really needed to make money because during this time, Ben had lost his entire bonus structure, right, from his job because we were in the middle of a recession. He was working for a builder. There was no more bonuses,
Right.
So I needed to make money. And I was sitting at home and Ben was upstairs with the kids, and I emailed Kimberly and said, hey, my name is Nina. I have a 3-month-old baby. I am looking to activate my real estate license, but nobody will take a chance on me. I don't know if you hire part-time people. And the next day she emailed me back and she said, that is how I started and I would love to talk to you. So I went in, talked to her, and she allowed me to bring Max in for our team meetings and trainings. I fed my little kid French fries when we were doing training so that he would be nice and quiet. And that's really how I started.
And so what's the progression there? So you were a buyer's agent? Were you originally
No,
an
so
admin?
I was an independent agent.
Okay.
My very first year, so I went active April 1st, 2009. April 1st, 2009. And I sold one house my first year.
Okay.
And it was not easy. It was actually really, really hard because as a family, we really needed the money. And I was going into debt because, as you know, real estate is not a cheap job if you're not making money, right? It's all the dues and your monthly dues and all that stuff.
Right.
So my first year, I sold one house. And then my second year, I sold 3 houses. So now we're into 2010. 2011, I believe that I had 7 closings. And I hit right around $2 million in sales. And then February of 2012, my broker in charge, Kimberly, she came and she said, unfortunately, I need to close my firm and I'm going to merge with another larger firm in the area and we would love for you to come with us. So at that point, I decided to go out and do some more due diligence myself to see where I really want to hang my license. And I had some more time because our son was older and Ben was fortunate enough during that time that he could work a lot from home because he didn't have a whole lot of homes to build, obviously. So Ben, he came home pretty early every day. So he came home, took care of the kids. I could get to work and do the training. And Ben's family members, his mom and his sister especially, and his stepdad helped out a lot taking care of the kids during that time. So that's when I got the opportunity to join KW Carey. So I joined them in February of 2012. Like I said, I did about $2 million in volume at the time. And I remember sitting at my first team meeting. I didn't know nobody. I didn't know anybody in there. And I was sitting there and they were doing awards. And up on the board was this lady, her name was Betsy Simmons. And she had done $100,000 the month prior to. And I was like, $100,000? Like, I can't even fathom $100,000, right? So I leaned over to the person beside me and I said, was that last year? And she said, no. That was last month. I was like, last month? How's that even possible? And I remember our team leader and actually our OP at the time asked Betsy, would you ever take the job as the president of the United States? And Betsy, she said, no. And they said, why not? And she said, because I make more than the president. And I was like, what in the world? This is the craziest thing I ever heard in my life. So I went into her office and I said, tell me, what do you do? Like, how are you building your business? And she just told me that she works her sphere, that she does a lot of networking. And I decided to just go around and talk to all the big producers and say, hey, how are you building your business? How are you making the money, right? A lot of them also being working moms. So I got a lot of good ideas from them and I went through Ignite, took Bold, and within 6 months, I'd gone from $2 million to $6 million in volume.
Wow.
And that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah. And going in, that's interesting, I think I hear a lot in KWS, the sphere. The sphere is kind of what people do. A lot of your sphere was in a different country.
Well, I moved here when I was 18.
Okay.
So I grew up here.
So you
right?
had a big following at that point of people.
I wouldn't say a big following, but I was very fortunate. Yes. You?
Huh? Oh, no, nothing.
Oh, nothing. You can say something.
No.
So I was very fortunate at the time. So if I go back, when I decided to activate my real estate license, I was still working part-time for the building company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was still babysitting,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing real estate. And at that time, I told my boss at the building company, I really want to activate my license. He lent me the money and allowed me to list his personal house. That was my one sale.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then I paid him back
Mhm.
when I had the closing. So he lent me $3,000
Mhm.
and then I paid him back.
Okay.
So then we had other friends that took a chance. So that's kind of how I built my business. I was basically a stay-at-home mom that had different side hustles.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I met people through that.
Okay,
And that's
so-
how I built my sphere.
Okay. So you had kind of a really natural sphere here through
Yeah.
your other things that you were doing.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm sure, the kids had friends and their parents, I'm sure, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then we lived in a really nice little neighborhood here in Apex called Whitehall Manors, and I knew everybody at the pool.
Okay.
So I started farming that neighborhood, so that really helped me out a lot. At one point, that was 60% of my business. Now, what really took me to the next level, I would say, is somebody told me, you need to find your niche. But what's my niche? I'm not really good at anything. I've never really been good at sports. I've never been really good at school or anything like that. I knew that I was good at the building relationship part from when I was a recruiter,
Mhm.
right? So I was like, you know what? That's what I need to do. I need to just build my sphere. And then I connected with the Swedish community. Just like you do the Italian stuff, I did the Swedish community. And now you're gonna have to cut this out.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine, right? Yeah. So anyways, so I got my first Swedish client, and during that process,
We're not going to cut it out, by the way. We just roll with it when we have like any kind of.
okay.
Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so my very first Swedish client, they had a lot of good questions, and they assumed that because I came from Sweden, I knew how it worked in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, I was only 18. I was about to turn 19 when I moved here.
Mhm.
So I'd never been an adult in Sweden.
Right.
I had two businesses with my dad in Sweden, but that was my dad's businesses that I ran and he helped me out,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
I got to practice my entrepreneurial skills on my dad,
Mhm.
right? So when I sat down with them and we went through everything and the questions that they had, I was like, I don't know how to compare it from Sweden because I never bought a house in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that, every time I went to Sweden, I followed a realtor for a couple of days.
Okay.
And I learned how it worked in Sweden.
Mhm.
So then when I came back here, I could be like, okay, this is how we do it in Sweden, this is how we do it here, and this is why it's different.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned very quickly that I needed to learn how it worked over there to then translate it over here.
Right.
So that's how I grew my business to the next level the following year.
So you'd say probably that was your most pivotal moment of change in business?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's when you found your niche, and then you went into that. And now, eventually, you build a business and you decide to go into Nina Parker Realty Group.
Yeah, so I was with KW from 2012 to 2016. And at that time, I had built my business to about 20 million in volume. And we really want to have an office in Apex, in downtown Apex. Unfortunately, that was not in the territory that we were, with the office that we were with.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go independent.
Okay.
So at that time, yes, we went independent.
And what was that like? Did you decide, were you a team? Did you decide to build a team under Nina Parker Realty Group? What did it look like when you went independent and switched?
So I had a team at the time, and it was two buyer's agents, Ben and myself, and then an assistant.
Okay.
When we went downtown, I decided to dissolve that team, and I asked them all to go on their own, independent under Nina Parker Realty Group.
Okay.
And then my assistant, she ran the office.
Okay. And how long was Nina Parker Realty Group Nina Parker Realty Group?
So as a brand,
Mhm.
2015 is when we got Nina Parker Realty Group set up.
Okay.
Not as an independent firm, but as a brand.
Okay. And you get the firm 16,
Yeah, December 16.
and then now you come full circle, and now you are back with Keller Williams as an operating principal owner of a franchise.
That's right.
What did that look like for you?
So in 2018, one of my very good friends with KW called me up and she said, "Are you ready to come back?" And I said, "Nope, I'm doing amazing."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, I really think that you need to come back. You need to sit down and talk about what it would look like for you to own a franchise in Apex. So she had a regional director come to my office downtown, and we sat down, and I told him, I said, you know what, I really like being independent. I love what I'm doing. I love my people. At the time, I had about 25 agents. We were running north of 100 million in volume,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't feel like work. Right? I mean, I came to the office every day. We had a good time. I helped the agents out with their businesses. But my nights and weekends were pretty free at the time. And I was like, I don't really need it.
Mm-hmm.
But they convinced me to go to Austin. So I went to Austin for franchise system orientation. Ben came with me. Unfortunately, Ben had to leave the next day because there's a hurricane in Apex.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And
Yeah,
Ben
that
had to
was
go
crazy.
home
Yeah.
and help with the kids.
Wow.
Right, because they were with a babysitter, and we're like, it's a
That's a bit
hurricane. He
much.
needs to go home to the kids. So I remember calling Ben that night, and I said, Ben, I think we need to do this.
Mhm.
And he said, are you serious? And I said, because I don't think that either of us went there thinking that we were going to do it.
No, but I'll say from my perspective, and we talked about this, I think after that moment, it felt so good to be back around the Keller Williams culture.
Yeah.
I think that was, if I can pinpoint anything for me where I was like, yeah, I'm behind this 100%. It was obviously, I was like, this is your decision, right? In the end, because, that's the way we operate. I was like, I defer to Nina because her decision-making process is better than mine for starters, but no, like that, I think for me, that was the moment where it was like being around all those people who, that higher level of being learning based. I think it was based, it was like learning based individuals, being around them again, and there's an energy there, man, that you can't duplicate. We couldn't really duplicate that on a small level in our firm. We tried as hard, but there's something about being around people from all around the country, even internationally, man, when you go to those events.
Well, for me, when I went there, I realized, first of all, that I had missed being around all the high-level thinkers,
Mm-hmm.
even though the agents at my office were extremely high-level thinkers, right? But it's like they say, you are who you surround yourself with.
Right.
And we had an amazing thing going together. I didn't know how to get them to the next level, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because there was nobody to that next level. So sitting down in Austin and listening to everything that KW as a franchise has to offer, I was like, there's no way that I can ever duplicate this on my own, right?
Right.
Like I said, we went to the office every day. We had a lot of events at the office, and we had an amazing time.
Mm-hmm.
But getting to that next level, we didn't have the support as far as the technology or getting information from a higher level, like a Gary Keller. It was me and me and me
Mhm.
that had to be. I was the big, I was the owner, and I ran my own business, right?
Right.
And it was just hard to be everything to everybody
Right.
and get everybody to the next level.
The agents
So
needed more, right? So like,
they didn't realize that they needed
I
more.
mean, you haven't said money at all, not one point in this conversation. So I think it's important for the people that watch this interview to understand like where that motivation was for us. It wasn't about the money. You said it before. You were already making the money at NPRG. We had like a kind of a comfortable setup down there. We love being downtown Apex. Everybody in the community was close with us and still are. We still support that. But like it was to help the agents that were already with Nina Parker Realty Group and provide some extra value for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We were struggling with that at home. Like, how do we take everything to the next level for them?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about us making more money. We knew it was going to be more work to do this, right?
And to be 100% transparent, I took a 95% pay cut doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I took a huge step back from where I was at to be able to do this at a larger scale. When I came back from Austin, Ben and I, we had a big discussion, and then I called a meeting for all the agents, and I asked them all to come in, and everybody came in. And I was very scared because they had all come from KW.
Okay.
From different areas in KW. They had all been there. So I was like, oh, they really gonna be behind me. So they came in, and I just told them, I said, guys, I went to Austin. I got to go through franchise system orientation, and I truly believe that it's in everybody's best interest for us to go back to KW. And I have the opportunity to buy the franchise in Apex. Would y'all support me and be behind me? First, they were like, been there, done that. This is awesome. We love our little quaint office. We love our little get-togethers. We love what we're doing. We don't want a corporate environment. And I said, well, but I'm not a corporate environment. So if I'm going to do it, it's not going to be a corporate environment, which I made very clear to the people that were selling me their franchise, that I'm never going to be that person in the box, right? So then Tracy Hoggard, she stood up, and this was like way into the conversation, and people, they were going back and forth and how they felt about it. And she stood up and she said, I just want to say something. And I said, what? And I was a little scared. And I said, what? And she said, if you can build what you have built here with the heart that you built it with at a larger scale at KW, and we have the resources they are giving us, I'm all in. And at that point, everybody's like, you're right. If you're gonna grow it and you're gonna do it the way that you want to do it, we're all in. So out of those 25 agents, 24 came with me.
Wow.
Yes.
That is, I mean, well, that's just a testament to you, obviously, and it just shows that they really knew that yes, we're going to a Keller Williams brand, but we are with Nina Parker, and that pulled them, and that shows how much they truly have faith in you, in your leadership style, and your ability to help them grow. And really, I think it shows how much you pour back into people. That was this is it. It's Nina. It doesn't matter if it's Keller Williams. It doesn't matter if it's Nina Parker Realty Group. It's Nina at the forefront. We're going to follow her.
It was genuine, right?
Yeah.
So I think what people can take away from it is when you're genuine in your intention, and this wasn't like a fast decision that happened. I mean, in terms of how we normally make decisions, Nina's a lot quicker at making a decision and implementing things. This one took a little bit longer from my perspective. And, you know, it happened quick, but on the other hand, like there was a lot of thought that went into it. And the agents saw that lamenting of, you know, her making that decision. And that was a genuine concern for what the future looked like after this, right? Are we doing the right thing for everybody? Because a lot of times when those decisions come up, again, it's in that person and their family's best interest. We've talked about this, me and you, in other conversations, but you know, we really wanted to provide an opportunity for all of those people that we learned to love and shared that little office with, and help them grow their business to that point. You know, it's like planting a seed, man, and watching it grow. I mean, it's one of the most satisfying things you can do in life. And we talk about it all the time when people hit great achievements. You know, again, Kate Carlton's an example of that. We talk about that all the time, watching her grow her business and becoming a team. And there's plenty of other agents in the office that when they start out, we watch them just go on that path. I'd love to go back for a second before all of this started. And it's funny that you mentioned way back in the Manpower days that you went office to office and were knocking doors, which you say you never do, right? But, you know, these are like, okay, so people need to understand, I think, and part of the reason we're doing these interviews is like people to understand that there's some work, serious work that went behind there. You got a baby on the hip. We're struggling to pay the bills because it's the recession. You're out there going door to door trying to get more clients because you know that you can help them, right? And you need people that need jobs, so you're placing them in a temp to permanent. So people that don't understand Manpower, that's a staffing agency where Nina would have someone come to them that needed to fill a position, maybe a part-timer, right? And they could actually transition over into a full-time job, and then that company would pay Manpower can you explain that a little bit, how that worked?
So if the employee got $10 an hour, I marked it up to $17 an hour. So I had a 70% markup, and I had the highest markup of the entire Manpower system. That was a game for me. I love the whole negotiation part. I love negotiating. So that was that. And then if they decided to hire them, they owed us, I believe it was $5,000. This was back in 1999. So they got $5,000 and I got bonused on that. But for me, when I look back at my Manpower days, I've helped a lot of those people buy houses. I'm friends with almost all of them on Facebook still.
Right.
This is 20 years ago, right? But just knowing that I was a part of their life and their career and what they were going to do and giving them the tools to get where they wanted to go, it's an amazing feeling to watch them this long after.
Yeah, and watch their journey and where they're at now.
Yeah.
And you do that on Facebook, right? Like you can actually, there's times where you're like, hey, do you remember such and such? And I worked with them at Manpower 25 years ago. I'm like, what? You still keep in touch with this person? And they reached out to you to buy a house? Okay, I'll call them right. Because that, like, a lot of people don't understand that that's the level of care and love that's given to these people by you. Like, people need to understand that that's how you build your business, or you have built your business. It's not necessarily the way for everyone to do it, but that's a way to do it. And it's a long term, it started with 1, then it was 3, then it was 7, then it was 20 million, then it was 25 agents, and now it's 185 agents, right? In a market center and, a couple of indies or whatever. But, I think, like, if I think back at where you developed all the skills to run those businesses and everything from looking, we're married, so I know everything, right? But there was so many times where everything was on the line, and there were struggles beyond what people see. And through all of that, right, you still kept in touch with all of those people and managed those relationships. It wasn't like, hey, I'm shutting down for 2 years and not gonna respond when I see that this person had a child, or they got married, or they moved to, Wyoming, right, or wherever. I think that people need to understand how intricate, like, how do you become that involved from a network standpoint? Like, what are you doing different than everybody else? Because I go on Facebook and like people's posts and heart people's posts, but I feel like I'm invisible when I do that, really, because...
No, they see it. However, honestly, I don't do that to build my business. I do that because I love the people and I care about them, right? So when I say that I sold houses to people at Manpower, I have, and Ben have, right? Because I'm not in production anymore, so Ben has gotten a lot of those leads too from my job 25 years ago, which is awesome, right? I've sold homes to every job I ever had. I've sold houses to people working in these companies. Yeah. Right? But that's not because I'm trying to sell them. I think it's because they know that I truly do care, because I do care. Right? Yeah. I built a lot of my business came from open houses as well. And it's really cool to watch the people that I met through open houses, because we became friends. I've been to baby showers, I've been to weddings, I've been to a funeral, unfortunately. I've been to baby showers. I've been to a lot of events, but not because I'm their realtor, but because I care about them and their family. Right. So I think it all depends on your personality and how you're going to grow your business. I tell people, I don't cold call. I network, right? Yep. I will be scared to cold call. Even in recruiting, I don't cold call. I have people give me warm leads. So it's all about your personality. The people that are cold calling, I wish I could do that. I wish I had that in me. Ben is really good at that. I wish, like, I look back at my business and I look at the MREA book, and I wonder, what would my business have looked like if I followed all those models and I did spend 2 hours a day to lead generate, right? And what would that have looked like? How big would my business have grown? If I could grow my business based on social media, farming, and open houses, to 20 million, which was 63 transactions at the time. If I could do that in an organic way,
Yeah.
if I actually did marketing and I did do the cold calling and I, like all of that, where would I have been?
Yeah.
That's something I'm always going to wonder about,
Just
right?
supplementing your business that way.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have been more beneficial for you to leverage those things out because they were things you didn't enjoy doing and you might have got a higher return having, say, an ISA that did that for you, as opposed to trying, you go 100% to the things that you're great at and then have someone help you supplement that business? Or would you have liked to try it yourself?
No, I think that would have been amazing, but at that point, people didn't talk about leverage, right? Leverage is a pretty new phenomenon in real estate.
Yeah.
People, they've always talked about, you need to hire an assistant. And I did. I hired an assistant. I hired Kate Carlton right out of college in 2015. So she got her license and Ben got his license at the same time. They joined me, and how they survived with my crazy mind, I don't know how in the world they did it, because I didn't give any information to either of them. I came in and slept like a whirlwind to the office. Like every day when I came into the office, I don't know if you remember this, Ben, or if you realize, but every morning I came in, I had 4 boards, and I looked at every board. My actives, my buyers under contract, my listers under contract, and then my closed. And I knew my numbers every single day, right? I knew what was going on in every single transaction. I was scared to give them any of that information because then it was not in my head anymore. And they were gonna get involved, and if they got involved, am I gonna be in control? Because believe it or not, Mike, I'm a control freak, right?
Well, we were learning, like you were teaching us, we were learning, we were brand new, you've got to remember.
They were brand new, and it was hard because, and I say this to Kate all the time, right? Because now she's at a point where she's hiring and she's building her team, and I say, learn from my mistakes, right? Because I was not that person that tried to train them, right? I told Kate, go and take this class, right? I told Ben, go and take these classes, but I didn't involve them highly in my business at the time, right? What I should have done is leverage Ben as far as lead generating and that kind of stuff, and I didn't because I didn't know how to do it. Nobody trained me how to do it, right? I was that entrepreneurial wild spirit that was out there doing things by the seat of my pants, and it was hard at times, right?
I think that's why they developed the KPA, honestly, and career visionings, to teach you how to hire and find talent. Because again, what Mike was asking was, would you ever cold call? Would you ever leverage that out? And the thing is, you don't enjoy doing that. So for you to have an ISA and me going on listing appointments and you managing everything else in between, we'll never know what that looked like. But I'm pretty sure that would have been a massive business if that had been the natural path where it continued. And I know we talked about this the other night. You kind of look at this brokerage, Keller Williams Legacy, as a big Nina Parker Realty Group, right? Like your heart's in this business. This isn't like you just became the operating principal and bought in the franchise and this is just a business money-making thing for you. You actually are like, you're passionate about. I think that people don't really understand that, maybe because of other people that are in that role or whatever, like however that's designed, and you get into job descriptions and all of that. So we've kind of dissected that a little bit and diluted that effect in this company where you've been able to maintain that, right? You're the leader, everyone's following you. We've got great talent in here now. Like, what does that look like now for you, for us as a firm? Like, now in hindsight, with all those lessons that you've learned, how are you putting that to work? Because I see it in the last few interviews and the last few job placements and stuff. I think people want to understand not just the recruiting part. Like, what does recruiting look like for you nowadays when you want to recruit an agent or somebody talented versus those days when we didn't have all those tools and that information?
Well, recruiting for me, and I was in a recruiting appointment this morning, and for me that's not recruiting. I am there building a relationship. For me, it is very important that we're building a firm with people that we want to be in business with,
Mhm.
and not just with numbers. The minute that you're building with numbers, you kind of lose control.
Mhm.
Now, there is an aspect to the business when it comes to brand new agents. It's hard to build that relationship because they don't have a path.
Mhm.
So you don't have the opportunity to build that relationship until they're already with your firm,
Right.
So that's different, hiring by numbers with new agents versus experienced agents.
Mhm.
So the meeting that was in this morning, we were talking about lead generating, cold calling, that kind of stuff. And I said, for me, I don't like to do cold calling. It makes me feel like I don't like when telemarketers they call me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that's how I feel if I'm making phone calls for no reason. That's my drunk monkey. That's on me, because there are people out there that are running an amazing business on making cold calls. Go for it. Like I said, I wish I would have done it. But when it comes to recruiting, I rather have appointments with people that other agents have referred to me,
Mhm.
right? Or I know a lot of the agents in the area because I was in production myself.
Mhm.
But believe it or not, there's a lot of agents that I don't know anymore because I haven't sold a house in 4 years.
Right. Yeah.
So as far as a recruiting appointment, I don't talk about KW. I don't talk about me. I talk about what do you need for you to be successful and what is success to you, right? That's how my recruiting appointment go. And then through the conversation, I can say, like this morning, the appointment I had, they're newer to the area. They work for a company where you're more salary based, and they did 40 transactions in the last year. That's amazing for not having a sphere, right? Because they were fed with leads.
Mhm.
But that person at one point want to have their own business and want to be with a company like us.
Mhm.
And I said, I have your perfect solution.
Right.
And I told them about the red team, right? So that is a path. So when I talk to people, I try to listen for what solution do I have for them and their problems or whatever, however you want to look at it, and how can I help them? So that's my recruiting. It's the same as when I said at Manpower. Okay, you want to be an admin. What do you know? Excel, Word, like all of that stuff. Okay, you don't. Let's get you into training. Right? I send them to training, they learn all of that, they become master in it, and then I can place them at a job where they have the skills that is required.
Right.
It's the same way, right? It's building relationships and getting to know them and knowing what they need.
Relationship appointment, not a recruiting appointment.
Yeah, I don't like recruiting appointments. I don't like people to feel like they're being recruited, and I want people to know that they are here because we value them and we believe in them. And a lot of agencies ask me when we sit down and say, hey, what is your requirement out of me? Like, how many transactions do I have to do if I work here? And I tell them, hey, success is different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
If you tell me that your goal is to sell one house a year so that you can go to Disney World, right?
Mhm.
Then let's figure out how you're going to sell one house a year.
Right.
If you tell me that your goal is to do 500 houses a year, then let's figure out what is the path to get there, right? But to me, I don't have a requirement. As long as I know that you are meeting your own requirements and your own success, I'm okay.
Right.
Don't apologize to me if you're not capping, because it is all what do you need for you and your family. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and I actually like that because that goes back to your start, where you had 2 people tell you we're only taking full-timers.
Yeah.
Whereas here, this is a place for everyone.
Yeah.
Whether you are a single mother who just needs to do, I shouldn't actually say that, single mother needs to do a lot of transactions, take care of her family, right? Or if you're a spouse whose spouse has a great job and you only need to do that one transaction for the other vacation you want to go on. There's no requirement here. Anyone who wants to come here and work one transaction, work 1,000 transactions, there's a place for you here.
And to be quite honest, a lot of times the people that are in here and doing a few transactions a year, the value is not in their production, but what they bring to the office, because a lot of those agents are bringing a lot of cultural value, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And in an office like this, that is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not all about how many transactions do you do or how much money do you bring into the company. That's not what I think about. I think about what is the person getting out of it themselves,
Mhm.
right, and their families, and what difference can they make in their world,
Mhm.
right, and then what can we do together?
And that kind of comes back to what you did as a recruiter, what you did as an agent, just pouring into people.
Yeah.
And it provided you tenfold, but just not because you wanted it to, because you wanted to see other people succeed.
That's honestly my favorite thing. I remember when I was an agent, I like listings. I think listings are fun. I absolutely love working with buyers. And I know if you ask any top agent, they're going to be like, oh, we love listings on the other, right?
Mhm.
Because buyers takes a lot of time. But for me to walk into a house and looking at them and know that this is the house they need.
Yeah.
They fell in love with this house, and I need to do everything in my power for them to get into this house, and then handing them the keys after 30 days. That to me beats anything in this world. I love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really.
I think you'd be surprised at how many other top agents or leaders of teams feel that way too.
Yeah.
I think there's some other people out there in our industry, close local people that feel that same.
Well, that's just it. I mean, you
Russian,
can be a
yeah.
successful transactional agent, but you do see a lot of successful people are just that way because of the coming from contribution that we talk
Yeah.
about a lot. Is that it just
Yeah.
people want to work with someone who cares about them, who thinks about them, who reaches out, Facebook, Instagram, calls. They just want to work with good people. And
Yeah.
so you see that a lot. Successful people just being successful because they're good people and they happen to do this job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're sharing that emotional ride with them too, right? Like if they don't get it or, you know, something happens, like people don't see that side of the game either. It's like, ugh, because you are friends with them, and we've known, like, our biggest referral source, those people, Nina met the husband at an open house, right? And we've watched their kids grow up and, you know, participated in charity events with their family and gone to, you know, parties at their house. And it really is, those relationships are valuable, like beyond just us selling houses with them, man. Like we love them like family. They love us like family. They would speak the same way, I mean, that we're speaking about them right now. I mean, these individuals, you know what I'm talking about, and they're part of our extended family, man. Like we would do anything for them, they would do anything for us. And I mean, outside of work, you know, this is our life. I mean, you know, you don't have to make work all the time. Right. And so when I hear you know, what I've heard, the message throughout this whole interview was just like, it really resets me to even hear this. I hope other people get that same message, like reset your mentality to what's important. And sometimes we do get too caught up in the numbers and, I don't have another sale, something lined up, especially when the market gets a little bit down or the market gets weird like it is right now. But there's still opportunity out there for you to care about people, build relationships, and sometimes we lose sight of those people who's closest to us during these times, man. An example of that's when COVID hit, right? Like just checking in, how's everybody doing? And it was, you know, you're trying to take care of yourself, let alone reaching out to everybody that you know.
Right.
And I think you've balanced that really well.
Well, I really haven't the last couple of years. And you asked me about leverage. I feel like I have not done a great job as far as keeping in contact with a lot of my friends for the last couple of years. One, COVID hit, right? So at that time, we have 150 agents that I need to make sure that they're okay. Right? For the first few months with shutdown, I bought everybody dinner every Wednesday night, right? To make sure that they had what they needed. So we did it at a local restaurant every week.
Yeah.
The agents, they came, and on average we had about 80 people every week coming to get dinners for their entire family. And then we did an event via Zoom that night, and we did that for a few months, right?
Yeah.
So we had to make sure that our agents, they were okay. And unfortunately then your personal life kind of takes a backseat. Right? So I did feel like I have not kept in touch with all those people like I should during that time. But I also think that they understand why. And then I got really sick. So then when I got really sick, then of course everything took a backseat to everything going on. So when you talk about keeping track of your sphere and your friends and all of that, there are times where you feel an immense amount of guilt because you cannot give back what you need to give back to them, even though you want to, right? Because you have so much going on either in your work life or your personal life. Yeah.
But I do think, like you mentioned, people do understand that. They see, there's a good perspective of people understanding that there is, there's a business, there's being sick, there's a reason why, especially because you are so purposeful on giving back to others, that people know that there's a reason. That you're not just sitting at home watching, Netflix saying I'll call them another day. There's a reason behind it.
Most people do, but some people don't. Some people don't understand that, and so you can say it here in this format, but like everybody else was kind of doing the same thing, right? Everybody was like, "Oh, I don't want to go hang out with other people on COVID and have a big get together."
Yeah.
Did we push that envelope at some point? Yeah, because this is our life is taking care of people and building those relationships. So did Nina push that envelope a little bit at the end there? Are we pushing through that now, like trying to get everybody back to the office and heck yeah, man, because we know that she knows that that's important. This has been the whole the theme here. It's like you keep going back to that. That's the most important thing. And people that think that you can do this without that aspect, I challenge them to go to any top 10 real estate conference, the top 3 real estate conferences or 5 or whatever, how many brokerages there are, go to all of them and listen to the top producers, and they're all going to say the same thing. We've been going there for years. They always start with the relationships, right? And that's the core of their business. Before they start talking about how much money they made, before they start talking about how they lead generate, before they start talking about Keller Williams and all these other things, I have strong relationships. I'm the center of my local community. I give back, right?
Yeah.
And I think when I said that you maintain those things, like even through COVID, whether you realize it or not, somebody who's a friend of ours saw that you were doing that for the agents, right, through social media, and they're like, yep, that's our girl. That's one of our clients nicknamed her the Little Tiger. Back to the negotiations with Manpower, right? He gave her that nickname because you're fierce about taking care of those of your people, right?
I love my people.
Yeah. So you guys, who are watching today, if there's nothing else that you got from this interview, I would say that's one of the main things is like love on your people, care about them, and be purposeful about building the relationships and checking in on them, because we could all do that to a higher level, right?
Yeah.
So should we ask her a couple of fun questions?
Well, I'll actually, just before we do that, one
Yeah.
question I want to take, and it's actually one of your questions that you had said in your relationship meetings you asked. I'd love to know, what is Nina Parker's definition of success for yourself, for the business? What do you look at as success?
So it's going to sound very hokey. For me to say that I've been successful is to watch people around me how successful they are, right? So a few months ago, right before I was going out for surgery in August, I was looking at the report of the office to see whose numbers were up and whose were down. The people that were up, I did a social media post because I'm very proud and I want to share with the world, right? So I did a social media post. The people that were down, I called them, right? Because I want to make sure that if their business is down, is that because something that I could have done better, right? Is there something that the office could have done? And is there anything going on in their life that I need to know about?
Yeah.
And that's very important to me because I feel like my success is going to be when other people there are successful. When I look at Kate or I look at Ben and the business that they have built, right? They all came and started with me back in the day when I was a crazy person running around, right?
Yeah.
And they have both built an immense amount of business on their own.
Wait, has that changed?
No, it hasn't changed. But they have both built an immense amount of business, and watching that is amazing, right?
Yeah.
I'm very proud of both of them because it's not easy, and something that a few of my friends used to tell me when my business really took off, 2013 was my first good year.
Mm-hmm.
And when my business really took off, my friends used to say to me, "You're so lucky." But they don't see all the stuff that goes in behind the scenes. And then they were like, "You work too much." But if it was my husband that worked those hours, nobody would have thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was the mom, then people are like, "Oh, you work too much. You need to take a step back."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, but Ben is home taking care of the kids. He's doing an amazing job with those kids."
Mm-hmm.
Like every single night, Ben put those kids to bed, reading books, giving them their baths, brushing their hair, doing all of those things that I missed out on because I was out working, trying to build a business for the family, right? So watching Kate being a single mom and doing what she has done, it brings me to tears. And Ben doing what he's done for the last few years has been amazing, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. And actually, Kate's going to be one of our upcoming episodes, so I'm excited for you to be able to watch that and see where Kate sees herself and what she sees as success. And that will be a representation of what you've poured into her and what she's poured into herself. So that's great.
I mean, I was telling them at a team meeting today that we started a leverage company, which is not what we're going to talk about today, but we started a leverage company in 2020. I decided that we need to do something to help the agents that cannot afford to bring on leverage, right? Because it's expensive to hire an assistant. That's how Legacy Resources was born. And most people, they don't know this, but there was times when we had to go to our HELOC and take out money off our house to pay Kate's salary.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because both Ben and I, we lived off that money.
Right.
So supporting a third person at the time was hard, right? And I was paying for daycare.
Right.
So there was a couple of times where I had to go and take money off the HELOC to pay her salary. She never knew that at the time, right? So what I was trying to tell the agents during team meeting was, leverage is amazing, but you have to make sure that you can afford the leverage, right? Because everybody doesn't have a HELOC that they can fall back on, right? So
yeah, that's great, and Kate has done fantastic, and Keller Williams Legacy has done fantastic. You're not just one market center now; you've got an Apex location, a Holly Springs location, and a shared Cary location. So I mean, success in a personal level and a professional level achieved, and you get to keep growing that with more people that you're helping every day. So that's great.
Thank you.
Ben, what some questions you have?
Yeah, fun. I'm the fun question guy. So I asked you this yesterday. I don't know if you thought about it or not, but where are your 2 favorite places to eat locally? 2 favorite restaurants.
Danny's Barbecue.
Danny's Barbecue, located in
Cary by Western Wake Hospital.
Okay.
And my second one is something that you and I discovered last year together, which I absolutely love, and that's OSHA.
OSHA, okay, in Holly Springs.
In Holly Springs.
That's in Holly Springs, yeah. Sushi restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah, that place is amazing. That's probably, until we try Mike's Italian food recommendations. That's probably the top places. OSHA.
Well, since Ben asked that question, I think that you need to ask a question on the sheet that says, what would you do if you were not doing this right now?
Yeah, well, I do actually want to ask that question, but also, so not only if you were not being OP, but also if you couldn't be in production right now, what would you want to do?
I would own a Swedish food truck.
Really?
Yes.
And is there a market in here at all in that? Is there no? So just you would corner the market and you would order, which would be kind of a callback to what you did back in Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that on the horizon? Is there a look for a Swedish food truck anytime in the near future?
I don't know, but that is one of my dreams to do one day.
Yeah.
So I love cooking, and I love cooking for people, just like you love to cook for people, right?
Yeah.
And if I did not do what I'm doing now, I would love to own a Swedish food truck, or like a place downtown that is like a quaint little Swedish bakery food kind of thing.
Now downtown Apex?
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of go back to your roots there too, because the old Nina Parker.
But I'm not going nowhere. I'm just saying that if it was more than one Nina, like the picture the other day on social media, right? I would have a restaurant, food truck, and do this.
So if anybody's watching, We already have the name picked out and everything. Don't tell them the name,
No, we
but
won't.
Yeah.
you know, we could explore that, right?
Yeah.
But that would be a lot of fun to me.
Yeah, well, that's great. And then, so where does that come from? Other than, obviously, your father and you had the Swedish food truck, but has that always been something you wanted to do? Was that even, maybe you weren't going to get into real estate in the beginning? Was that something you ever thought about doing?
Oh, no. But I love taking care of people, and I
Mhm.
think that a lot of ways to take care of people is cooking, right?
Yeah.
And food.
Yeah.
And when I did the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce, I did a lot of events.
Okay.
And me and 2 other people, we cooked all the food. So there was a lot of times that we cooked for like 100 people.
Okay.
And it was just so much fun to see their expression on how much they loved it and how much joy it brought to them,
Mhm.
and a lot of the traditions.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And what does that look? So, what is Swedish cuisine? Kind of some staples that are your favorite things to go with to make.
Well, Swedish meatballs, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely have Swedish pizza on the menu.
Okay.
And I would have Swedish kebab on the menu. Open-faced sandwiches would be on the menu.
Okay.
Baked potatoes with a ton of different fillings in it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Really? And Ben? What's your favorite Swedish meal?
Probably it would be a Christmas food. There's a potato casserole with cheese and anchovies in it. It's called Lasse's.
No, Jansson.
Jansson's. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't remember that. Jansson's potatoes.
I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say cabbage rolls.
Cabbage rolls. Yeah, but that's something that you do? But I don't think I've had that like proper in Sweden though. Oh, I will tell you what my new favorite is. We went there last summer and they have a cold smoked salmon at this little fish place on the side of the road with this little white sauce. What's the sauce base? Like
It's,
sour cream or something?
sour cream, and then it's caviar in it.
Really?
Life changing stuff.
Hmm.
That's the best salmon I've ever had in my life, and I could eat pounds of that stuff. I
Mm.
mean, it was addicting. It's cold smoked, right?
Yeah, it is.
I don't even know how they make it, but it's cold
It is
smoked.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, actually, you brought something to that. Kind of a fun question. Just like for people who don't know and haven't been to the office, you brought up Christmas, and that is a big thing here.
Yes,
A
it
true
is.
love for Christmas, like no other. Where did that come from? Was that in Sweden? Did you have a big Christmas there, or was it when you got here? What does that look like? Your love for Christmas?
It's like a Hallmark movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like walking into the North Pole at times.
Growing up, we were very big on traditions.
Mhm.
It's something that my mom, she really instilled in me. And our house was always very decorated for Christmas. All the family came together. It was always a lot of food, a lot of sweets, which I have a problem with sweets. That's my weakness. And then when Ben and I, in 1997, Ben and I were moved in together. And we were going to celebrate our first Christmas. And you were not a huge person into Christmas. I mean, you were like, you didn't
I
really...
mean, I enjoyed Christmas. We just didn't decorate as much. you
Yeah.
know.
So, my parents were here.
Mhm.
Our first big argument as a almost married couple, Ben probably don't remember, was about the Christmas lights on the tree. Because he wanted colored lights.
Mm.
And I refused to put colored lights on a Christmas tree. It needs to be white lights.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I don't remember, but
I take this very seriously.
who won?
I did. So Ben and I would just build. We took the best from my traditions and the best from Ben's traditions, and I feel like Christmas in our house is an amazing holiday. isn't
Yeah,
it?
I agree. I mean, and here too at the office, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I do, yeah. It's funny because I'm very much not a Christmas guy, and so when I'm coming in, I'm like, oh, it's Nina's got the decorations out. But then it's a big thing. Like Chris Barnett does like the Hallmark movie lookalikes and stuff like that. Really, in this office, it's a integral part of the culture from basically November 1st till the end of January.
And I didn't really understand it either until I went to Sweden and experienced Christmas over there. So I will say this. They're on like the edge of the Arctic Circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first time I went over there was during the summer. And it was like they have the shutters that close and like blackout shutters on the windows because it could be 11 o'clock at night and the birds outside are chirping and it's bright outside, right?
Yeah,
In the
it's
winter,
2 o'clock in the
it's the
morning.
opposite, right? So it's just it's very dark and you never quite get full sunshine at certain times around that Christmas time. So the lights and everything and the Christmas decorations brings out like this, the positive vibes and it gets the energy and the feelings going surrounding that. I mean, during the summer, they've got all the waving, yellow grain that's growing in the fields and the potato sprouts, and it's all green and gold and blue skies like you see in most of the photos. During the winter, they've tilled all those fields, and it's just a big brown mess. It's disgusting. It looks like a mud pit, right? So it can get a little depressing when you're in that environment. So the Christmas season's big. Kind of like New Year's when we went to Iceland and they do all the fireworks and everything. They celebrate it because it's up there. So that may be part of the reason too, that it's embedded in the culture. I think that may be part of it.
But yeah, we love it. I don't know if you ever seen our Christmas closet in this office.
Yes, actually I have. Yeah, it's
Christmas closet.
It's a whole office worth.
It is.
Yeah.
Like they always say, lead with revenue, and I say, do not show this closet, the Christmas closet, to corporate, because that closet is not leading with revenue.
Yeah. Well, we've got some people who are big into it here. They really, Rich Burgraff, I know, helps you decorate the patio.
Oh, yeah.
There's some real Christmas. It really is an integral part of the culture here in this office. Is those 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, do you have one more fun question?
I don't know. What's one purchase that you made in the last year that you think, not expensive? It could be expensive, or it couldn't be. Something that you find really useful that you'd like to share with other people. I was sharing with Mike, when we went to our first conference, and one of our the other realtors, my phone battery would die, and he had a Mophie, and I was like,
if you give me my phone, I'm going to show you right now.
Okay, all right, here we go. Here's your phone. You show us what you purchased that is a life changer now.
It's going to be a life changer. It's not done yet. It's coming in the next few days, and I just bought this for myself.
Here we go.
Yes, this was Nina's Christmas gift to herself.
This is gonna be good.
Ta-da!
An office chair that you can take a nap in.
That's right. Look.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
It's an office chair.
We all need one of those.
I would say
It is an office chair. It has real massage in it. Like a real professional massage in it, okay?
Now, if this is extra beneficial, will all of the staff have access to this chair?
I think the agents I heard the agents, this is their Christmas present.
It has a footrest, so it tilts back and has a footrest. I can put my computer in my lap.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, this is what I purchased for myself, and it's coming this week to the office.
Okay. Is there a buzzer to wake you up or anything?
It has a vibration in it.
There you go.
When somebody enters your office, it wakes you up?
Yeah. I'm not going to sleep. This is for me to get in my zone. I also got a pair of headphones for Christmas.
Okay.
A pair of Beats.
Okay.
So next week you will see me in my zone, in this chair, typing away.
Yeah.
And yes, did that answer your question?
That was it.
That's
That was the 2 fun questions that we had for you today. But hey, maybe somebody wants to buy a fully reticulating
they needed an upgrade
office
to the
sofa,
office.
basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
one person office sofa.
I don't think that I buy that much stuff for myself. I buy a lot of stuff for the kids.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything that I bought for myself that would be mind blowing?
Oh, if you asked me that question about myself, I couldn't really answer that on the spot. That's a question.
You were saying
that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about the chair.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
And then I guess we would just like to end with what's one thing, if this would be more of a serious question, but one lesson you could impart on anyone that you think would be beneficial to anyone watching this, whether they're an agent, just a person interested in the conversation, someone thinking about starting a business. What's one integral piece of advice you would like to impart on the audience?
Be yourself and be true to yourself.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Nina, for coming in, and this has been a fantastic interview. Once again, thank you for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the next interview.